Welcome to March 31st. Here we are, the last day of March 2022. Your day weather podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily, Wyoming's news authority. Visit them at cowboystatedaily.com and on their Facebook page. Well, last night got kind of exciting in many areas. Last night we ended up with an outbreak of the Aurora Borealis, the solar activity picking up as we go into the next solar cycle. And boy, we had some awesome pictures get sent in by some podcast listeners. So thank you for sending those in. We'll show those to you here in a moment. So we'll be talking about auroras as more could be showing up in the coming days. But we're also going to get into a typical pattern. Rain, snow showers, and alternating pattern of unsettled weather conditions. We have a Pacific cold front that'll be moving through the region quickly today and tonight, bringing a bit of rain and snow. A northern system, Montana, northern Wyoming, Idaho, into the Dakotas, will see a chance of rain and snow showers again during the day Saturday and the Saturday evening. We have a small system that'll bring some good snow to the mountains in Colorado Sunday night into early Monday. Then that strong jet stream wind we showed you yesterday is still on schedule to come into British Columbia, the Pacific Northwest, and the Northern Rockies by early next week. And that's going to drive cold, moist, unstable air into the interior west. And that's going to lead to mountain snow and rain and snow on the plains. Might end up with a pretty good-looking storm system for the northern plains. And we'll show you where early next week. It's a system that livestock interests will want to keep an eye on. And we'll show you more about that. It's going to be an active pattern as we go into the new month of April, which is good. That's what we want to bring us needed precipitation. Now, let's get back to the auroras. The sunspot activity has really picked up as the new solar cycle is starting. We've occasionally talked about coronal mass ejections and solar flares. Well, there was an X-class flare that came out of the sun yesterday from sunspot 2975 right here. Now, it was directed towards the Earth. There were other coronal mass ejections and flares earlier this week. So this flare right here is expected, that just happened, and you can see it right here. This is scheduled to come into the Earth around late April 1 into the 2nd. So basically late Friday into Saturday. But it almost acted like it pushed out an earlier flare, and that's what caused this activity last night. Just some fabulous shots last night. This is from Douglas, Wyoming, and we saw so far the reports are as far south as Cheyenne and Du Bois. Now, haven't heard anybody or seen any photos yet from Colorado or Utah, but I do know that we have seen a lot of photos come in at spaceweather.com from North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming, parts of the Pacific Northwest. This happened for about an hour last night. These were short-lived. This happened between 10 and 11 p.m. last night. There was a lot of red showing up, and here's one out of the northern Bighorn Mountains. Just gorgeous shots, and there are other beautiful shots showing up on the internet right now that folks got, and we'll get more in throughout the course of the day today. Now, this is always a very tricky proposition of trying to predict when these are going to happen, where they're going to happen. A lot of times it's just luck in terms of when we are able to get to see these south. But with the solar activity increasing and getting stronger now, as we go through the next cycle, the opportunities for more coronal mass ejections and aurora displays in this part of the country are going to happen throughout the course of the spring, summer, and really over the next year or so. We're going to, and longer than that, we're just in that new cycle. So some opportunities like this will come up. I'll tell you, based on what the space weather folks are saying, there may be other aurora displays happening over the next several days. It's always a cat and mouse game with clouds. Last night just happened that all the stars lined up. We had a clear sky. We didn't have the moon out, and we had this aurora show up for a brief time. Well, getting back to the regular weather, satellite photo shows the Pacific trough right here. This axis of cloudiness is what's going to be producing rain and snow showers underneath it as it heads off to the southeast. We've got a bit of high pressure coming in behind it. Then we've got this next low, this low here south of the Illusions associated with those really strong jet stream winds. That's going to come into play later on. But embedded in the flow are other little systems that are coming through the flow. And this is what happens in the spring. When you change seasons, winter to spring, and summer to fall, you just get more storm systems in the jet stream. And the more waves, the more weather systems that you get, the more variable and changeable the weather can get. And you can see all the waves. This is the one that rolled through earlier this week. This is the one that's coming through later today and tonight. There's another little wave right here, another wave right here. So there's several coming on through. And up here in the Pacific, this is just going to be a breeding ground for fronts and storm systems in the coming weeks. And that's why the weather pattern is going to be getting more active. This is by tomorrow afternoon. The front is all the way through us. And here's the next wave coming into the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies on Saturday. And there you see it. By Saturday afternoon, it's going right across Montana. And the newer data is showing that this system is going a little more south. So I wouldn't be surprised if some folks in the central high plains of Wyoming, certainly Montana and the Dakotas and western Nebraska, might end up with a couple of showers on Sunday. It's possible. We're also going to see some of this energy undercut and come into Colorado during the day Sunday into Sunday night. This is what the precipitation forecast is looking like through Sunday afternoon. You can see some really needed rain and snow is going to fall up here. Boy, this is an area that really needs it. South Dakota, western areas of North Dakota, eastern Montana, northeastern Wyoming in particular, up into the Black Hills. Going to see a nice little shot of moisture. Not a ton, but it all adds up over time. Then this area right here is going to come in late Sunday into Monday, and the Utah mountains and the mountains of Colorado might do pretty well with that system. And then you can see a little bit of shower activity on the plains, but you get into the downslope Chinook areas east of the divide, there's not going to be much there. As we look ahead, snowfall-wise, this is what the snowfall pattern looks like through Sunday afternoon. So the mountains are going to get some snow, not a ton, but some, and a little moisture on the plains. As we go out to Monday night and Tuesday, this is what we showed you yesterday, those very strong temperature gradients coming off the North Pacific, causing an area right here of enhanced and very strong jet stream winds. So this is going to drive heavy rain into British Columbia, into the Pacific Northwest coastal areas, and then some of that moisture gets over the divide, and this is what's going to produce snow in the high country of the northern and central Rockies, and we really need it as that strong jet stream energy comes on in. What will end up happening is we will get a trough getting carved out somewhere in this vicinity right here as we get into early next week. The European model wants to center it over South Dakota, so it's going to be taking more of a northerly track. This will be good news for the Dakotas, Nebraska, Montana, northeastern Wyoming. Now, it's not going to bring nice weather. Stock growers need to be prepared for rain, snow, wind, and much colder temperatures, but those areas really need the rain and snow. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but this time of year, you're not going to get a nice, gentle, steady rain and 70-degree temperatures. You're just not. You're going to have to suffer through these systems coming on through. The counterclockwise spin could end up being a good driver of snow into the mountains of Wyoming and Colorado on the backside of the storm Tuesday night into Wednesday. Then we've got another trough forming here. What we're likely going to see is this storm system early next week, late next week, some high pressure coming in, then the next storm coming in behind it. So next week could have some bad weather up front, good weather on the backside. The second part of the forecast, this is for the second storm, and this is what I wanted to highlight for you. This area right here desperately needs some rain and snow. And right now, look at the Black Hills. Now, we're not 100% sure yet, but this is a pattern. This is a type of storm that can really drive a lot of rain and snow into the Black Hills. And that's one area where the snowpack is really suffering. So that could be really good news there. And then you can see the patches of blue, darker green, into the mountains of Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado. And there's that moisture starting to head into the Pacific Northwest. And this is what the snow pattern looks like early next week with this system as well. There's going to be a fair amount of cold air with this system. As you can see right here, the temperature anomaly by Wednesday afternoon shows it getting pretty chilly out there. So we're still going to have some ups and downs, and we still have plenty of cold days to come, I'm afraid to say. Looking out further, this is looking out 10 days, and we have another wave coming in by the next weekend, the weekend of the 9th and 10th, with another system behind it. You see this ridge of high pressure here up into the Gulf of Alaska? As long as that maintains itself, that's going to send weather systems across the region about every 2 or 3 days or so. So this is why we're thinking April is going to be an active month, at least on the front end. Have yourself a great Thursday. No April Foolin' tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.